What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I wanted to discuss a few fragrance flankers that I just think are so much better than their original versions that if you had to pick between the two, I think these are definitely the way to go. Whether it be just because they flat out smell better, because they perform better, or because they're just a better version of the DNA and they kind of do a better job overall for what the original's intention was as far as attire or seasons or situation or whatever they tend to be deemed best for. And in this video, I'm bringing you 10 of those. I want to discuss them, so stay tuned. Starting with one that's a pretty new release. It came out in 2021. While I would not call it the best release of 2021 for the designer market, I would say it's so much better than its original that it's flankered from that you should just not even bother looking at Prada Lunarosa when you can get Prada Lunarosa Ocean. This is such a better fragrance. Like I said, I don't think it was the absolute best designer release from last year. At the recording of this, it's early 2022, but it's definitely one of, has this bright, fresh, aquatic nature to it with this nice underlying sweetness. There's a little touch of iris here that adds kind of a fresh floral, lightly powdery tone, but it doesn't make it an overwhelming iris floral dominated fragrance. It's just a nice supporting note that kind of changes a little bit to make it a little bit different from your run-of-the-mill sweet aquatic fragrances, because the designer market has a lot of fragrances like that. The original Prada Lunarosa is more so a lavender heavy, very soapy aromatic fragrance with a little bit of spice. Not a ton of character, but a very clean and refined type of smell. Here, it's a little bit more laid back and casual, a bit better for the heat, in my opinion, and the performance is a lot better. While this is no room-filling, 12-hour-long beast, it's definitely above average in longevity in the 6 to 8 hour range, in my experience on my skin. So it definitely lasts for a pretty long time, and it leaves a pretty strong trail for the most part. Not the heaviest projecting fragrance, but it definitely projects more than the original Prada Lunarosa Ocean. Before this came around, the flanker that probably would have sat right here had this not existed is Prada Lunarosa Carbon, which is a more refined take on the Dior Sauvage type of scent profile because of how Prada does lavender just so well. Here you do have, it stays true to that DNA with that soapy lavender smell, but it's more so on the iris than it is on lavender, the way they mix this fragrance. It's got a little bit of this, like almost a liquidy, thick sweetness, but not a ton of sweetness. So don't think it's an overly sweet fragrance, but there is a nice defined sweetness in the background at the start, and then it comes more to the forefront as it starts to dry. But it definitely gives you that oceanic, aquatic type of feel that they were going for with this. The floral tone, the sea notes, that aquatic vibe as a whole. The name's fitting. It definitely suits the color scheme a little bit better too. I would deem it not necessarily a dark aquatic, but it has a bit more richness and less bright freshness, like maybe a lighter blue fragrance that's really special for the summer, whereas this I feel like you can pull off in a lot more situations and a lot more seasons than just the summer. So steer clear of Prada Lunarosa and go with the better version. Get Prada Lunarosa Ocean. Another 2021 designer release that is kind of taking the place, if rumors are true, taking the place of the famed and mega popular hype beast Spice Bomb Extreme. And while I do love the original Spice Bomb quite a bit, it has its place in a collection, or even as small of a collection as if you just have one or two fragrances. It's still great, but honestly, I feel like its newest flanker, Spice Bomb Infrared, is just so much better overall. It does the same job and actually does it a little bit better overall because it has more of an aromatic appeal here. It still has that, actually more so the way the spice is done here. It's kind of a red hot red pepper type of spice with a very light sweetness. If we just sit down here in a blind test, I don't know which would win, honestly. Maybe one day I'll get around to doing that with some strangers. Who knows? But honestly, I think for me personally, to my nose. This smells better overall, and I would definitely recommend checking this one out. Obviously, check both, but honestly, I think you have no need for the original Spice Bomb if you get your nose on this one, because they've refined the DNA. I've never came across a Spice Bomb release that I didn't like, and that includes Night Vision EDT, which seems to have been the least popular among the entire line, but they always seem to do the DNA justice and create something spicy that doesn't veer off the path of what Spice Bomb was about, but still make it just a little bit better than the original every time. And I really feel like they've honed into what they really want to make this line about with infrared. It's starting to grow on me to where I'm feeling like it's the best of the line. While I really do enjoy Night Vision EDP, it was my absolute favorite. It was the previous release before this one. The more I spend time with this one, the more I think I'm starting to turn my opinion to Spice Bomb Infrared being the highlight of the line, and the one that deems the original pretty much useless at this point unless you just collect the line. If you just want to get one, what is the one to get from the line that really you can wear on dates and evenings year round, because it doesn't wear too heavy to work in summer evenings. It's got a light, airy appeal, but it sticks to the skin, and it's, like I said, it still has that red hot type of spice, that seductive sexiness that the line's known for. This works better across the board, I think, for what people are looking for from a spicy fragrance and from the Spice Bomb line as a whole. So steer clear of the original. If you're looking for what's probably the best of the line at this stage, that would be the newest release with Spice Bomb Infrared. Rumored to be discontinued, but I still think it's the highlight of the line. It's still my favorite fragrance. Okay, I love the original. There's another one where I like the entire line, with the newest release being actually my least favorite of the line. But when it comes to Paco Rabanne's Invictus, I think Paco Rabanne Invictus Aqua is definitely the highlight. I do have 2 bottles at this stage. I have a backup 50 ml now at this point. It's fresh. It's a little powdery and floral. It's full of citruses. It's extremely aquatic. It is a compliment magnet. It performs, but it's not a crazy beast. It's far from a weak fragrance. This stuff really gets out in the air. This can really grab somebody. This is one of the kings of summer as far as men's fragrances, in my opinion. Rumored to be discontinued, but I still see it at most discount sites for about what it's been going for a long time, in the $60 to $70 range in a lot of places, on up to around retail $80, $90 range, but it's that good of a fragrance in my opinion. Is everybody going to like all of my selections here? It's all subjective, maybe, maybe not. But for me personally, with my taste, I think this is the highlight of the line. This is much better than the original. The Legend is a really good fragrance and veers off a little bit from the original, whereas this still has the heart of Invictus in it. It's a sweet aquatic, but it's much less sweet and much more fresh and aquatic, hence the Aqua name. This is a tester bottle. That's why it has the name of the fragrance on the front. Standard bottles do not have that. But it's one that if you can still get your hands on it for a good price, I think this is the highlight of the line. I think you'll be satisfied with this one personally, because if you just want to smell great, smell fresh, and smell attractive to others, and have the occasional situation where somebody tells you you smell really nice, because that happens more times than not for me when I wear this, steer clear of the original Invictus and just get Invictus Aqua. So speaking of Paco Rabanne, the 1 Million line. So the original 1 Million, another sweet, spicy type of youthful scent, one of the clubbing scents as it's known. Personally, I think there's 2 particular fragrances in the line that are just so much better than the original, and I was really going back and forth with which one to feature here, but I think most will agree with me that instead of getting 1 Million, you should just go after 1 Million Lucky. This stuff is so much better than the original, so much night and day comparatively. This is a bona fide head turner right here. This is a compliment machine. It's got a strong gourmand facet to it with this honey hazelnut type of smell. There's a little bit of plum, if I remember correctly, is that sweet fruity note. It still has that sweet spice appeal, but more so on the sweetness. Yes, it's laid back and playful. It does perform really well, but like I said, this is a head turner. This stuff grabs attention. Historically, since it came out, it was really hyped up and really popular for the first couple of years of it being on the market, and for good reason. This stuff works. It's not played out. Never a bad time for this one as long as it's not high heat. because it's kind of sticky, sweet, and thick, more so of a gourmand sweet fragrance. I don't think it's good for the heat at all. I've never worn it in high heat. I wouldn't recommend you do it either. Obviously, you do as you choose, but this is so much better than the original that it's unreal. The one I was back and forth with debating on what to put here was 1 Million Privé. That is more of a cinnamon tobacco take on the 1 Million DNA, and possibly my favorite in the line. But when it comes down to if I really only had to pick one to recommend to you guys, it's hard to not recommend 1 Million Lucky, because 1 Million Lucky, like I said, that's the best thing about it. If getting some positive attention is that important to you, because I know for a lot of people that watch fragrance videos on YouTube, that's what you're concerned with. Hey, does it get compliments? Does it pull compliments? Do people like how it smells? 1 Million Lucky is definitely one of those fragrances if that's what's super important to you. It smells great. I love wearing it. Of course, wear it for yourself. But like I said, if that really factors into what you're going to wear when you're going somewhere, fragrances like this will definitely do the trick if that's your bag. So steer clear of 1 Million and just get 1 Million Lucky. Honestly, I think all of the flankers are better than the original, personally, but if I had to recommend just one to you that's readily available at this point, I think with Acqua di Gio, you should just go with Acqua di Gio Profondo. It's the modern take. It's a blue version. I know at the recording of this, the new Eau de Parfum has come out. I haven't tried that yet, but I really think this is really the way to go. Profumo's fantastic. I love Absolute, though a lot of people don't. I love Absolute. I love its flanker, Absolute Instinct. I don't have the long discontinued Essenza. Profondo Lights, the flanker of this flanker. I love that fragrance. I think it's my favorite of the line at this point. But for your money, this is the way to go. Steer clear of Acqua di Gio at this point. I've actually mentioned earlier this year in a video of this is finally the year, don't rebuy Acqua di Gio, because all of its versions, all of its flankers, if you will, are better, in my opinion. They all perform better. They all have a more modern smell. And this one is the poster child for that description. It performs probably the best of the line. It's the freshest, most aquatic blue type of feel where it has that versatility. It definitely pulls in some positive attention. And it's like if Acqua di Gio was a brand new release today and they only had the one fragrance, I really believe this is the one they would have gone with, because it speaks to modern men's designer fragrances so perfectly. It's synthetic, sure, but it's extremely crowd-pleasing, mass-appealing, and it's got that grab somebody type of projection, and it's going to last you your whole day. This stuff's a straight-up beast. You're getting your money's worth here, especially when you can grab it for around $70 or so from discounters. It's absolutely worth the money. This stuff is great. Steer clear of the original and just get Profondo. Still pretty easy to find. I've seen it at a few discount sites recently. I've seen it on eBay. I've seen it from sellers on Amazon. So even though it's been discontinued for a little while, it's still not crazy to get a bottle as far as price point, and it's still relatively easy to find. It was hard to go back and forth here with a few of these YSL L'Homme flankers, but I think if you can get your hands on L'Homme Ultime, you're in good shape. You don't need L'Homme. You don't need L'Homme Le Parfum. I was kind of back and forth with L'Homme Le Parfum here, but this is just such an interesting take on the DNA. I think what swayed me the most is my love for a good ginger note, and it's done very well here. There's a little bit of a dry, dusty rose that doesn't make a real heavy rose floral fragrance, because I know when you hear rose in a men's fragrance, that turns off some people because they think grandma smell. That's not the case here. It's a bit of a dry, dusty, lightly powdery rose that blends so well with this bright, crisp, fresh, spicy ginger note, and it still has that creamy core of the DNA of L'Homme in its heart. I mean, it's really hard to go wrong here with this one. The performance is there. It lasts about 8 hours on my skin. It does grab and captivate others. In my experience, this is underrated for how much ladies like how this one smells. I can tell you firsthand, some friends of mine, as well as my wife, they really, really like the way this one smells on me and on two friends in particular that have this fragrance. Their ladies really, really love it. That's why they wear it so much. It's because their ladies love it. So this is another one. During its heyday, especially when it was readily available on the market, it was super hyped up. as it should be. The hype has died down because of the discontinuation, but like I said, I've been seeing it a lot in the $60 to $70 range for 60 mLs like this. Even in the $80 range, I still think it's worth it because the performance is there. It kind of takes the DNA twisted enough to not veer away from what YSL Loam's all about, but still bring something fresh and new and slightly unique to the table to make arguably the best Loam flanker not named La Nuit de Loam. So steer clear of Loam and just try to secure yourself a bottle of Loam Ultime. One that I haven't spoken about on the channel in quite a while. I didn't really give it enough run this past summer, and as we move into spring at the recording of this and into the summer, I'm definitely going to reach back for this one because it's such a great fragrance, and I believe it's the ultimate version of this particular line because it spawned so many flankers, from sport flankers to EDP flankers to gold blends and all that different stuff. When it comes to Polo Blue, go with Polo Deep Blue Parfum. This one in particular, I have a scent memory tied to. I went to my stepson's high school graduation. This was my fragrance of choice. So I always think of that when I see this bottle, when I smell this scent. It's like Polo Blue meets Dior Sauvage. So it's the most modern way that you can look at Polo Blue. It's got some green elements with this cypress note. It's got the shower gel appeal of Dior Sauvage's Ambroxan with that fresh, crisp, bright, blue aquatic smell of Polo Blue. It's really got a lot of good things going on here. It's not a crazy beast, but it is about an 8-hour fragrance on my skin. It does project very well in the first 2 to 3 hours. This is another one. We'll get you some attention. It's a crowd pleaser. It's very mass appealing, but it's not an overwhelming fragrance that will induce headaches, at least in my experience, because some Ambroxan heavy fragrances, if they're too powerful or sprayed too heavy, can create a headache for yourself or maybe some of those around you. Not the case in my experience here. Doesn't get a ton of spotlight. It does get some here and there, and it kind of gets forgotten about because so many designer fragrances come out every year throughout the year that they get talked about, people get excited about things, and they really good fragrances kind of get shoveled to the side and almost completely forgotten about. And I think that's kind of the case here. Even for me, I'm guilty of it with Polo Deep Blue Parfum. It's the ultimate in the Polo Blue line, better than all of them, in my opinion, personally. And I do have a few of them. And it's definitely the best performing in my experience. You can find tester bottles, 4.2s like this. This is in a white tester box for a decent price in the $60 range. And like I said, it combines two beloved, popular crowd pleasers into one, basically. Dior Sauvage meets Polo Blue. Pretty hard to beat. Steer clear of Polo Blue unless you just want it for nostalgia's sake because you used to have a bottle 20 years ago, and go for the ultimate version with Polo Deep Blue Parfum. At the recording of this, I just saw an announcement yesterday for a new parfum version of this fragrance. It's going to be the 2022 release from Azzaro, and I'm very excited about it. I will get it because I love the line. I have all of them, even the tonic flanker that most people crap on that I actually think isn't that bad. Wanted by Night. In the Wanted line is my big old 5-ounce bottle. I think this is the best, most well-rounded of the line, until further notice, for sure. The original doesn't get the kind of love it deserves because this is so good. It really is deserving of all the love, all the hype, all the praise that it gets. My stepson, this is his most recent acquisition. He wanted a bottle for Christmas, which was only 3 months ago at the recording of this. So now he's been rocking this almost daily as a signature scent. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. It's sweet, it's spicy and warm. There's a nice smooth tobacco in the background. There's a warm amber. It performs really well, and you can get them cheap. 100 mLs, smaller bottle than this, 100 mLs go for around $40 across the internet from most discounters. It's very, very bang for your buck. This stuff's been hyped to death over the years. A lot of people wear it that are in the fragrance community, that are really into fragrances, because you're usually in the know when you're wearing stuff like this for the most part, because this isn't something they're just pushing at every fragrance department counter at Macy's and places like that. So are you going to smell it everywhere you go? Not necessarily. For as popular as it is here in the fragrance community, you're not necessarily going to smell it everywhere you go. Your lady most likely will thank you and be happy that you wore this, because that's one of the reasons that it's so popular, is not all but most ladies seem to like this one. I can say firsthand, my wife really likes how this smells on me and on my stepson. And like I said, bang for your buck. You're definitely getting your money's worth. It's just a few dollars more than getting the original. And personally, I think it's not necessarily miles better than the original, but it's definitely better than the original. It's easy to get. It performs. It smells great. It gets positive reactions. It works across the board. Don't worry about getting wanted, and just get wanted by night. If you've ever smelled this fragrance, it goes without saying that it's hands down night and day better than its original, because today in 2022 and for a while now, people, younger people think of Azzaro Pour Homme as a dated old man grandpa type of smell. I understand. It's been around for decades. I kind of get where they're coming from, even though I personally like it. But a more modern take, better performing, affordable version of this fragrance is Azzaro Pour Homme Intense Eau de Parfum. This is so much better than the original. And this line has spawned so many flankers. Line within a line. They had the sensual whatever, I forgot the name of the line, the different color bottles with Naughty Leather, Wild Mint, Amber Fever, Ginger Lover, all of those, Hot Pepper. I forgot the specific name for that line, but that's Azzaro Pour Homme flankers. That was a separate line within the line. Like, there's so many versions. This is the second version of the Intense to come out in the life of the Azzaro Pour Homme DNA. And this is the ultimate version of the fragrance. It's boozy. It's much more warm and spicy. It really pays homage to the original. It still has that classic masculine barbershop aftershave, spicy aromatic aftershave type of smell that the original is known for. But like I said, the booziness and the cinnamon really kind of changed the game and make it a much more modern smelling fragrance on a classic DNA. It really is the best. If you were to just get one Azzaro Pour Homme, I think this is the way to go if you're over 30 years old, honestly. I don't think everybody in their 20s are going to enjoy it as much. They might like Wild Mint more, Hot Pepper, something that's a little bit more laid back, less serious. While this isn't the most serious fragrance, it does come across barbershop, which tends to dress up a little bit better than something that's got some more sweetness and stuff like that in it. This stuff has a little bit of sweetness, but it's a boozy sweetness from this lovely smooth brandy note that it has. And like I said, performance is stellar on here. You can get bottles like this, 100 ml bottles, around $40 or less from discounters when they have them in stock, because they tend to sell out pretty quickly when they do restock them in different places. I don't know if it's for lack of inventory and they only have a few bottles, or it's just quietly that popular that when it restocks, people buy them up. But it's worthy of giving a shot. If you were ever curious about the Azzaro Pour Homme line, in my opinion, you can skip that one and all of its flankers and just get Azzaro Pour Homme Intense. Last but not least, I may get a little bit of flack for this one. Some will completely agree with me. Some will say, oh, you're crazy, the EDP is the best. And I'm not going to argue that. This is just my personal taste and my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt and try it for yourself, because, like I said, you may completely agree with me. Or you may be more team EDP when it comes to Bleu de Chanel. I'm all about the parfum, baby. This is the best of the line, in my opinion. You can't go wrong here. It provides the freshness and mass appeal of the original, but it's much more refined, smooth, warm, and woody. There's this gorgeous lemon zest up top. The opening is beautiful on this fragrance. It's got just the right amount of Isui Super to not make it too synthetic of a fragrance. It really smooths off with this cashmere wood and sandalwood. There's a couple other things going on here, but the smokiness is removed. A ton of the citrus is removed. It's a smoother, more warm, woody, refined type of take on the Bleu de Chanel DNA. And in my opinion, it is the best of the line. At the recording of this, there's only three that exist: the EDT, the EDP, and the Parfum. Yes, it's the most expensive. Yes, it's the weakest projecting. It's not as loud as the others, but it's the smoothest, and on my skin, it goes all day long. 10 hours easy on my skin. And it's in that sweet spot where it's easy to smell in the first hour, hour and a half, and then it sits a bit close to the skin, but because of the density of the aroma, because it's a parfum concentration, the oils are a little bit higher, it lingers a little bit more. So say you walk by somebody with the EDT, they might only get a whiff of you within the first 5 or 6 feet of you passing by. Whereas with something like this, the aroma might still be able to hit them for beyond 10, 12, even 15 feet after you walk by. This is, for example, this is not 100% accurate. This is just to give you an idea that a denser aroma will linger a little bit longer in the air. And it can still pull a compliment just like the others, but this one dresses up that much better, in my opinion. This is great for work, office settings, climate-controlled environments, signature scent-worthy type of stuff where it's not going to be in your face. It's smooth, refined, and professional, but still has that ease of wear, ease of use, and versatility that Bleu de Chanel is known for. So in my opinion, skip the EDT, skip the EDP, and go straight for the jugular. Get Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Well, that is my opinion on what I deem the best options as far as flankers versus the originals. And some of these you may agree with, some of these you may not. If you're newer to this hobby, hopefully this was some good information for you and can maybe point you in the right direction if you were maybe back and forth on which to get or couldn't really decide and you can't really get out to a department store or secure a sample and you're just looking for some advice on maybe pointing you in the right direction for the ideal version of a scent. Because for a lot of these, they do have multiple fragrances in their line that are really good. And in my opinion, these are the best route to go for most people. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. So I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. Those of you that have watched this video, do you have any of these? What do you think about them? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you disagree with my assessment? That's okay. Everything's subjective. This is all my opinion and to be taken with a grain of salt because at the end of the day, you really should try something before you buy it if available, if you can. It's definitely the ideal way to go. And until next time, I will say if you get your hands on any of these 10, you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.